Well, and if you put them up against Batman
is
also
not a
uses...
working class hero.
No. That's what I'm saying, though. They're the anti-Batman.
Okay.
They don't have any inherent superpowers. That's arguable. Batman's super strong, but
Right.
he's not Superman. He doesn't fly.
Right.
And it's the working class Batman.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Go, Ghostbusters!
This is Midnight Local, and I'm doing my morning drive voice for you. It's Meredith, it's Greg, and we're talking about 1984's most problematic movie of the year, Ghostbusters.
Oh, you're going to kick it off as the most problematic movie of the year.
You know what it was? I just needed something in there for the tempo of the delivery. I needed 7 syllables there to make it land. Sometimes that's how my mouth works. I just say things because I need to connect this to that, and it would be weird if I didn't.
1984, PG, hour 45 minutes, $30 million budget, grossed $243.5 million.
And continues to make buckets, I'm sure.
I was going to say, like, the gross on this one is almost funny because it's like, yeah, sure.
Exactly. Okay, and I mentioned that it's the most problematic movie of 1984. I don't actually believe that. I don't know what else came out in 1984. I understand that there are some quibbles in Ghostbusters. Yeah. But I'm sure that there were way more fucked up movies in 1984. I'm sure of that.
With more fucked up people.
Yeah, I think so.
Although Bill Murray is doing his best.
He does his best to be the most fucked up guy in the room, I think. I truly do. This does give us an opportunity to open up the lid on one of Greg's favorite personal topics, the resurrection of Chevy Chase.
Oh my gosh. What episode was it that we really went into it?
I don't know.
It's recent.
It wasn't on topic.
Are you going to do it again?
Beetlejuice,
maybe?
It could happen. It could happen. I'm not there yet, but it could happen since we're going to talk about Mr. Bill Murray.
It was like flubber. It was totally random, but it came up recently.
Always very random. Always very random. It doesn't belong in any conversation, and yet I can't help myself.
This movie's the first scene with Bill Murray lends itself to this conversation so well because he's just like creepily trying to get it with this student that he's researching.
She's a grad student.
Sure, she's not
that young.
Yes, agreed. It's creepy. He's skeevy. It's not creepy. It's gross.
So I guess we're gonna go right into that. Can we talk about this movie being wonderful first?
Yeah.
Before we go there,
let's be assholes later. Yeah,
I mean, we're not gonna be assholes, but like, let's just
kind of
marvel.
We'll save it for minute 30.
The wonderful glow. I mean. So, are you not able to enjoy this movie for that reason, I guess?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I love this movie.
Okay, thank you.
Loved this movie since childhood.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So worried
not.
there. It's getting hot in here. I was like, this is going to be an awkward conversation. No, it's fantastic. It's an amazing movie. I talk about, what I look for in movies is something I haven't seen before. Nobody had seen anything like this before. I mean, this movie's insane.
It defines comedy horror. There was another title for Ghostbusters. Do you remember what it was?
No.
I'll look it up. Like famously another title. Well, and the reason it came to my mind right now while you're looking it up is that there's a lot of things besides ghosts. I won't say there aren't very many ghosts. There are a lot of ghosts. You get demons, goblins, other dimensions. Like it's not just ghosts.
Exactly. Okay, so Wikipedia, as the title legally was restricted by the 1970s children's show The Ghostbusters, owned by Universal Studios, several alternatives were considered, including Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Breakers, and Ghost Smashers. All of which are just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Okay, but they were all ghosts. They stuck with ghosts no matter what.
Yeah.
That was their...
They're all just terrible names.
Their idea.
So, I mean, to say that nobody had ever seen anything like this before, there was actually a lawsuit or near lawsuit or whatever. They had to buy off the rights to the name Ghostbusters because there was a cartoon show in the 70s that was called Ghostbusters that really bore no resemblance at all to this.
Do you know what it was about? Are you familiar with it?
I think I know there's a cartoon from our childhood.
Yeah, that like the Slimer cartoon.
No, that's the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no.
Because
That's
there was a cartoon that's called that show is called The Real Ghostbusters, because at the exact same time there was another cartoon called Ghostbusters about two guys and a gorilla fighting ghosts.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was a remake of the original. No, that's what it was. 1970s, not cartoon show. Children's show, The Ghostbusters, which was then adapted into The Ghostbusters cartoon show. And it was two guys in a gorilla suit. Two guys and one dude in a gorilla suit fighting ghosts. Like, so stupid.
See if I can pull some clips from it. Which reminds me, if you are listening to this as a podcast, we also have a YouTube show where we add some supporting clips. If you're ever wondering, I wonder what they're talking about, what that looks like. Maybe if you go watch it over there,
you'll find it.
I'll throw something in there for you.
Yeah. I mean, look, movie, like you said, $30 million budget, $250-something million gross, original concept, not an existing IP. Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Fantastic state-of-the-art special effects, really some of the best effects going in 1984, to the point where I actually, I bought years and years ago when I got my first iPad, there was like a crowdfunder for, we're going to digitize every issue of Cinefex ever. And I bought that, and I really wish I could get access to that again, because I think it was just money wasted now, because it was on that iPad and it's gone forever. I don't think you can. I should look and see if I can get it again. But it was great, and there was an entire article in there about Ghostbusters and about how they did the effects and the model work and the stop motion or go motion effects, which is a little different than stop motion. And the scene at the end with the Stay Puft Marshmallow, he's walking on a raked stage, the actor, who I think is actually a child in a suit, and the city is built at like a 30-degree angle, so they get the camera angles right and everything like that, and the perspective. It's like just everything, the entire history of film special effects, plus the state of the art for the time, coalescing into this movie in the most wonderful way. They all hold up. Most of them hold up.
Oh, hugely. Yeah, I think absolutely. In the same way that Beetlejuice does. The practical effects don't grow into looking cheesy in the way that old computer effects start to.
And these are practical, but they're optically printed. There is, there is compositing and stuff like that going on, but the elements are shot practically.
How do they do the first ghost in the library? Do you know?
I assume it's a Pepper's ghost. So I assume it's the way the Haunted Mansion works at Disney. Which is where there would be a piece of glass in front of the actors that they're looking at, that we're looking through. And then 45 degrees to that off to the right, standing in front of a pure black background with her very well lit, would be the actress, whom is turning, she's performing her, everybody's eye lines are figured out in advance, so they all look in the right way. But she's performing essentially like in a black soundstage, and then reflecting into that glass, which is like a half reflection that we can see through, and then we're looking through her in that way. I think that's probably how it works, with some additional optical printing, special effects, and like stuff like that, because she's only seen from the torso, so you could probably there's probably a couple things going on there. I wish I knew better. I don't remember that actually being part of the breakdown in Cinefex, though.
Okay.
And then obviously at some point it turns into a puppet or something, because we get that big face transformation.
I will say, like, this is a movie that just feels so effortless, because a lot of the comedy is improv. You've got three.
Is it?
Yeah, they say that like Bill Murray's lines are like pretty much 90% improv in this movie, or added to, ad-libbed.
Right. Yeah. So there's like a difference. A lot of people get twisted where like, it was is done by improv. Improv and ad-lib are kind of different things. Ad-lib is like, I said a thing in the scene that wasn't in the script. A lot of times what improv means is we went off script in rehearsal, and that became the script.
Yeah. That's not what happened. Ad-libbed is definitely,
he was just doing what he wanted.
Here. Well, because I've heard people say that like nobody knew exactly what they were making except for maybe Harold Ramis, but
and Ivan Reitman, the director.
Yeah, and Ivan Reitman, right? That like leads me down this like path of thinking that it's so interesting, because people tried, besides the second movie, people trying to get a third movie out of these guys for so many years, and I think the reason it never happened is because like how you talk about, if you go in knowing the subtext and you make it from that angle, it's not going to be any good. I think because they were all kind of figuring it out as they went, and they weren't trying to make something like this, it just happened. And so I think when someone tells you, make that just happen again, I can understand their hesitancy to be like, we're going to ruin it if we do that. Magic happened. reality.
Well, I mean, and Bill Murray was the holdout. He was exactly that. And I think he probably wasn't happy with the way the sequel came out, and he was like, I'm not doing it again. The sequel, this movie is PG, and it's from that time when PG-13 didn't exist. And I think that, I mean, if you watch the sequel, it's not the same tone. It's a kid's movie.
And that's the one I watched more as a kid.
And it was the one that was always on TV.
Many more memories of the second movie, and actually have gotten reacquainted with the original Ghostbusters as an adult, and this is always the one that I choose.
It's the better film
as an adult. Yeah.
Same way as Star Wars too. I mean, the first Star Wars is much darker than where we wind up with in Return of the Jedi, which is there's a whole lot of analysis you can do on that as well.
Well, and I think a lot of it is merchandising. Like, this was such a merchandisable film, and who are you selling funny little ghost and merchandise to? It's
the cartoon show came out between the two movies. Between the two movies, you get the cartoon show. So I mean, like, it was
this was such a formula at this time.
It definitely became a kids movie into the sequel. And I think that that's part of why Bill Murray didn't want to do it. He doesn't really like doing sequels as well. I think he's just not a big fan of the way they came out. Everybody else wanted to do it. A third one, which eventually now we've rebooted the series finally for reals, and it's continuing. I don't know if the Frozen Kingdom, I haven't seen that, but I see.
I haven't either. I saw Afterlife.
Afterlife was fun. But I saw that Frozen Kingdom was very poorly received, and that might have been the nail in the coffin again for this.
Sure. It's just hard. I mean, Afterlife, you brought back well, okay, spoiler alert. Afterlife had some things that sort of, for the nostalgic purposes, like, people are going to love it, things that they've wanted to see. You can't sequel that, really.
There was a part of me that was like, exactly, that was the formula. It was nostalgia. And there was a part of me watching it where I was like, a little saccharine, but I want it.
Yeah.
But I want it.
Exactly. Yes.
The other problem is that at some point, if you were trying to make this movie after Groundhog Day, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray would never work with Harold Ramis after that point. They had a huge falling out on that film, and that was the end of it.
Is that teasing further Bill Murray scoop?
I mean, he beat they got into a physical
altercation,
very physical altercation on set where it devolved to like one of them trying to strangle the other one.
Jeez.
Because Bill Murray was impossible to work with and refused to stick to the script in a way that was really detrimental to Harold Ramis's vision. And I don't know if it was his first movie, but it was like, because it may have been his first directing film or something like that, or close to it. It was like very important to him. He was really leaning into the comedy, and Bill Murray was like, this is going to be a dark movie. And not in like a way that was like, oh, cool, it'll be a dark comedy, but like in a way that was like, this is not congruous, And like, if you don't, you really, you're just going to refuse to shoot the script the way, and like destroy scenes so that like we can't have them and stuff like that, and refuse to come to set unless we acquiesce to your changes. And it came to a head. Yeah.
I wonder, because I know Groundhog Day, people do kind of love the dark undertones about that movie.
Or he might have been right. I mean, just because you're an asshole doesn't mean you're not right, especially when it's your friend's movie that you're supposed to be like, helping him pursue his vision.
Well, and then we don't need to make much of the 2016 reboot, but
we both wanted it to be better, right? We can say that.
Well, that's the one thing I will say about it. At that point, if you're not going to get the originals back, if you're not
They did, actually. I think that some of them make cameos.
Sure, but they weren't making a third movie. You're going to have to make them with new actors. And so if you try to replace them, I feel like you have to pull a gimmick, and making it an all-female cast was that gimmick. You have to do something that takes you into a slightly sideways version of this world instead of trying to recreate the world. It didn't work. It didn't work for whatever reason.
I think that so many things were missteps in that film, but I think that, and maybe it is, maybe we could do like a series on disaster movies. Like, this movie just could have been great, but boy, did they fuck it up.
Trying to figure out why.
But I think that one of the main issue for me is why did they make it a reboot instead of a sequel? Why not just have it in the world that they had established? Sure. With it's either franchise.
Is it not?
No. I mean, there's no reference made into the original Ghostbusters. So if it is, and seemingly, no, it's not, because like they reinvent all the technology again that goes into the busting of ghosts. Like, women deserve better movies then this was a movie that was made with a male cast. We're going to make it again the same movie with a female cast. I'm sorry.
Well,
you do.
And I understand too. Like they tried to make it it was the Bridesmaids director. Like on paper,
Bridesmaids
it seems
is great.
like this is going to be funny. But then the jokes in the movie are very like sophomoric. Like it's just it feels like people trying to make jokes. And the original Ghostbusters, you never really feel like anyone's trying to make a joke. They're just being funny.
It kind of brings me to a point here, which is, I don't know if you would agree or not, but to me, your Ghostbusters in the Lady Ghostbusters ain't got no chemistry. They got nothing.
Yeah.
They don't even seem like they like each other. The Ghostbusters in Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, all of them, chemistry. These guys are fucking great together.
They feel like they've been friends since childhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like we need to walk through it a little bit.
We got to do the walkthrough. Yeah.
So you start out with research scientists that have a grant to work at a college. Do they say which? Are they at Columbia?
I think they're either at Columbia or NYU, but I think it's Columbia. They
get a call about a ghost sighting at the New York Public Library, and this is something that they've been waiting for. They see it. It's real. Are they seen publicly saying it's real? Like they lose their grant right after that, and it could just be that was a long time coming.
It was a long time coming. They come back from seeing the ghost and they've lost their grant. They're being moved out of the office. Like that was happening whether they saw that ghost or not.
Whether they saw it or not. Right. Okay. And so Bill Murray's like, doesn't matter. These ghosts are real. We're starting a company. We are going to be the people who take you seriously, who come in and get rid of these things for you.
Yes.
And convinces Raymond to take out a third mortgage on his home. Third. Everyone has a third mortgage these days.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I was born in that house. He's like, I'll be fine. And those are the moments where you feel this long-term friendship. Like
it's so good.
That's something that happens between people who have known each other. It feels like for years,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. And they have.
Yeah.
Murray and Dan Aykroyd had known each other for years. Harold Ramis and Murray had a huge working history together at this point as a duo, with Ramis writing and acting and Murray acting alongside of him in things like Stripes. Ernie Hudson, well, he comes in halfway through the movie. He's great in it, but he is kind of an outsider to this trio. And he is kind of an outsider to this trio.
It was supposed to be Eddie Murphy.
I know. And I think that's such a wonderful thing that it wasn't, because that would have fucked up the movie so bad.
Oh, you think so?
I fucking love Eddie Murphy. I love 1984 Eddie Murphy, but he is so big a personality that you can't. And he was at that time
even up next to someone like Bill Murray. You think?
Bigger, dude.
Interesting.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I don't mean like famous. I mean like if you put Eddie Murphy from 1984 into this movie, Eddie Murphy played the Eddie Murphy character at this point, and that's the guy you're gonna get. That's the guy you're casting, and that dude is big and loud in a wonderful way, but in a way that cannot come into this movie halfway through. He can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was supposed to be in. I think he was supposed to be in more of it. I think they rescripted Winston to come in halfway through after Eddie Murphy wouldn't do it.
It would have changed the context. I don't know. Whatever. Like I'm looking for here, the dynamics of the movie in a way that I don't think this movie would have been half as good. And we know that Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy are great together, because you've got Trading Places, probably one of the fucking funniest movies of the 80s, with them, at the heights of their powers together. I just don't think it would have worked here. Ernie Hudson is such a great straight man in this part.
I see what you're saying. Like he is sort of the voice of reason that comes in, and he plays that role out later in the movie when they're in the mayor's office. And he gets to say, I only came to this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And the shit that I've seen, like he grounds it in reality.
The shit that I've seen would turn you white.
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah,
that's so good. Eddie Murphy could have delivered that line for sure.
You're right, but it would have been a totally different tone. Absolutely. Who knows? We'll never know, right? Then you get two kind of great montages in this movie that sort of take you through the time of. I love how they immediately have a television commercial that's just like
very low budget television commercial.
Yeah, which totally makes sense. Like Bill Murray is the right, not Bill Murray, but Venkman is exactly the right guy to take this business and run with it, because he's like, this is an infomercial business.
Yes.
That's exactly what we are, and that is exactly what you get.
In 1984. you still had UHF. Everything was broadcast, and you had VHF and UHF broadcast. You could have got. I mean, I don't know why I'm concerning myself with the realism of the time and place of the Ghostbusters.
Done it fairly cheaply.
Yeah, you could have gotten that commercial on TV cheap.
Yeah, wasn't that one of the original trailers of the movie too? They just kind of took that infomercial. I think they might have. Yeah. And then we use that as a vehicle to meet Dana Barrett.
Fantastic apartment. Fantastic apartment. I'd kill for that apartment, even with the ghosts.
Oh my gosh. All of the apartments in this movie.
I lived around the corner from that building, actually, when I lived in Manhattan. It's a great building. I'd kill for that apartment.
But yeah, so she's having some paranormal activity happening in her apartment with the eggs.
Yeah, which is cool.
Popping open.
Those eggs popping open and frying on the what a great idea. You know what I mean? Like, what a great idea.
Simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Simple, but so well executed. Fantastic.
And then not as simple. You open the fridge and see into another dimension.
Yeah, less simple. Less simple. You got to build a model for that one. Right. So then she's like our first customer. Peter Venkman goes to check out her apartment, and suddenly gets very serious because he's been kind of jokey through this. But when he gets to those eggs, there's a moment where he goes, no, that is fucking weird. I mean, he doesn't drop an F-bomb, but he does. That is weird. And now he's taking her pretty seriously.
Well, and that is the dynamic, is you've got Egon and Raymond, who are very seriously parapsychological researchers. And then you have Peter Venkman, who is using it as a vehicle to do whatever he wants. And he continues to do so even after he believes it. You open the second movie with him as a cheesy like show host on some paranormal show.
That's right.
Yeah. He's using it to run bullshit experiments and hit on college co-eds and whatnot.
Even after seeing that ghost at the library, it's not clear that when he goes into this business, it's not a scam for him.
I agreed. Well, I think when he sees that, because he's totally skeptical for that first couple of minutes. They're talking about the books are stacked. He's like, in a way that no human could stack books, right?
But they couldn't.
Yeah.
You stack books that high, I defy you. You could never, it would topple. You could never stack books that high. I was like, one of the things.
Well, someone did to get the shot.
They probably put a metal rod through them. But watching that recently, I was like, but he's right. No human could stack books like that.
Yeah, I agree. He sees it and his brain immediately goes to, oh, great. If this is real, other people are experiencing this. We will be the people who take them seriously and get their money.
He's more than happy to bust your ghosts, real or imagined.
And at that point, I don't think he probably thinks they even can bust their ghosts. It doesn't matter. He'll just show up and say, I believe you.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to test this equipment yet when they get in the elevator.
Yeah, right.
Time to turn it on. That scene with them backing away into the corners of the elevator. Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on our backs.
And the guy's like, must be some cockroach.
As if there's a license for nuclear accelerators.
Yeah. Well, and that's like their superhero, right? Like the proton packs make them superheroes.
Oh, yeah. I also love that they're for busting ghosts, and also they just explode and burn everything in their packs. Right. They're not just like really good at fighting invisible things. They could level your building easily.
Yeah, those could get misused real quickly if they get out into the public.
They built man-portable, highly destructive plasma beams and used them to fight puppets. It's great that the army never said, we would like those now.
And the one word of caution is never cross the streams.
Classic joke.
It would be very, very bad. Yeah, of course, classic joke.
I do wonder if guys now joke about not crossing the streams because of that movie, or if the movie was referencing that. I think that the movie was the first.
Chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I think the movie was the first "don't cross the streams" joke.
You think so?
I think so. I think the movie kicked that off. Yeah, total proton reversal or particle reversal. Imagine every particle in your body and the universe exploding away from every other particle past the speed of light.
Incredible.
It would be
so what
bad.
do they fight for? So in that building, we meet Slimer right away.
Yeah, we get Slimer, who is not named Slimer, but he does slime Venkman. They destroy that hotel.
At least that floor of it.
Yeah, the ballroom, everything. Well, and there's a woman with her party trying to get into the ballroom in that scene. Like, she's trying to fight her way in. And they're like, oh, just another minute, just another minute. So, like, they did fuck them up real bad. But the greatest line, I mean... oh, it's okay if you don't want to pay. We'll just put him right back.
Yeah, we'll just put him right back in there.
It's fantastic. Fantastic.
He's the perfect person to run that business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They open up the firehouse and we get...
this is great.
Janine.
We'll take it.
Yeah, they're trying to like hardball her,
Does
and
this
he's
fire
just
pole
like going
still
down
work?
the fire pole. Yeah.
Does it still work?
We'll take
It's so good. They live in it.
Yeah, and they live in it. All three, they sleep in it. I mean, I guess, yeah, the idea is that they gave up all their money and put everything into this business.
If you are in New York
Well, they're firefighters. It's
yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah.
They're ghost fighters, but they're firefighters. They got to be ready to go at the drop of a hat.
Exactly.
So if you're in the city and you happen to be just around the corner from that Ghostbusting firehouse, which is a real location, is a place called Bubby's that has the best brunch you will ever eat in your life. This is just Greg's.
I've been with you once. It is a good brunch.
It's fantastic. This is just one little recommendation from Greg.
Well, yeah, all the exteriors are shot in and around New York City, and the interiors in LA.
Right.
You get some famous New York landmarks, right? They're in Tavern on the Green.
Yeah.
I think the apartment building is a real building.
It is a real
looks
building. I said that.
CG.
No,
yeah,
it's
okay.
a real building, and then they matted an extension onto the top of it.
The public library.
It's right next to a
Firehouse
building
is now famous.
called the San Remo. Is that the San Remo? I forget the name of it now, but there's this building that splits into two buildings, and at the very top of it, if you ever look up there, you're like, what the hell are those like weird columned domes up on the roof of that building? They are Greek temples, like ancient style, like rebuilt temples. And I cannot help but think that the Zool temple at the top of the Zool building is a direct reference to the building that's like two doors down on Central Park
They
West.
just looked over and like that.
You can't, if you look up and notice it, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on up there? That's weird. Looks like the fucking Parthenon, and it's just sitting on the building, you know, or like the Oracle at Delphi or something.
They do some
Bustin'.
ghost busting for a little while, and then
Bustin' makes me feel good.
The EPA inspector Walter Peck comes sniffing around.
So here is a thing. This movie is often cited as the libertarian wet dream.
Oh.
A small government Reagan era wet dream.
But the mayor plays a huge role in the end of the movie.
Sure, but he's not some three-letter agency like the EPA.
No, sure.
Yeah, he's a man of the people.
Yeah, he tells the EPA guy to stuff it at some point.
Yeah.
And this guy, Walter Peck, William Atherton, the actor William Atherton,
Fantastic.
I was like, where is he? How do I know him? How do I know him? How do I know him? And he plays pretty much the same character as a journalist in Die Hard.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah,
the
yeah.
journalist that she punches in both movies, Die Hard and Die Hard 2.
I never saw Die Hard 2. I've seen Die Hard 3 many times, but Die Hard 2 I never saw.
Which Die Hard 3 was supposed to be this original script was not a Die Hard property.
Oh, really?
It was called Simon Says or something like that, because the killer in that movie is giving him all of these like tasks to go do.
Yes.
And then they just decided it would make more money if it was Die Hard 3 and basically just made it Die Hard 3.
Good idea. Die Hard 3 is a great Die Hard. It's probably the second best one.
2's not bad. 2's the one that takes place in an airport.
I've heard that 2 is
movie.
not good, but I've never seen it. But yeah, it was not well received, I don't think.
It's not much different from I mean, it pretty much replays out the first movie.
Yeah, tough to beat that one. Back to this. Let's just wrap this plot up. We get to the Zool building. We've got some wild stuff going on with Dana Barrett turning into the gatekeeper.
Well, and we can't forget Rick Moranis.
So good. So good.
I love Rick Moranis.
He's
yeah,
such a joy.
He's great in this. He's perfect for that part. He is that role. But
I mean, it's a part that he had kind of been doing at Second City, or very close to some roles that he had done for Second City. You know, like it was in his wheelhouse. But yes, he is perfect. I'm just saying, my point is that he was practiced at it. Creep number 2, to some degree.
Yeah, yes, he's like stalking her. Man, she gets that in both movies. Sigourney Weaver's character gets that. The guy who can see through her wall and steals her baby in the second movie, who won't leave her alone. Yeah. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, he's great too. Can't remember his name. He's in Dragon Slayer. And then we have a big fight with Zool, 80s androgynous interdimensional babe, hanging out with that new wave haircut. And we cross the streams. We blow up her dimension. We toast the big marshmallow man.
Whatever you think of first.
Choose the form of your destroyer.
Yes. And they're all trying to empty their heads. And then you've got Raymond standing there sheepishly in the corner, having thought of the Stay Puffed marshmallow man.
Yeah, who is referenced a few times in the movie up at that point. You see some Stay Puft marshmallows throughout the movie. Obviously, Stay Puft is a brand made up for the movie and is also kind of the Michelin Man. He's sort of, by the way, did you know that the Michelin Man's name is Bibendium? That's his name?
No.
Yeah, his name is Bibendium. And he used to look much weirder. He would smoke a cigar and have a monocle and stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah. He was not a cuddly looking guy. He was made out of like a stack of hideous looking tires. And he loved a good restaurant, hence Michelin star.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
I always think that those are two different things.
No, same Michelin.
Yeah, that it is not.
It came from a little bit of like Mr. Michelin wanting to know where the good restaurants were, and also like, hey, you're driving around. Where should you eat?
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
There's the tie-in.
Yeah, because like, you'd get like road guides and stuff from those companies. We win. We're heroes. Ticker tape parade happens off camera. Ghostbusters.
New York celebration.
Yeah.
Everyone's hugging.
Yeah, exactly. The whole city comes together. All the people from different walks of life. So now we can talk about the meat and potatoes here, right? He's trying to bang his grad student. So here's the question. I have many questions about this. First, one, do you think that has worked for him in the past? And if okay, you think it has. And my follow-up was, and if it hasn't, is it cute and harmless?
He's just electrocuting this guy for no reason, for no research purposes, just because he can.
Yeah, but look at him. You kind of want to electrocute him too.
Yeah. And then telling her that she's got like special gifts because she keeps getting the cards right.
We got to discuss it over dinner. We got to have a conversation about it over dinner.
Exactly. Which, here's what I will give to Venkman. In this movie, once his sights are set on Dana Barrett, it feels like a much different thing. It's not sort of this playful, I just want to sleep with her. Like, I do get the sense with his interest in her that it's much more genuine. Well, but it's not. With the student, he just wants to have dinner with her, sleep with her, and discard her. With Dana Barrett, I always got the feeling that there was more there. Like, he actually was interested in her.
Yeah. He just pursues her in a way. Well, we'll come to that in a minute, too.
Yeah.
So here's a thing, right? 1984, discourse was in a different place. I think, and this is a little bit of apologism here, is there an argument to be made? Look, she's like a 20-year-old girl. If someone's flirting with her, teacher or no, and she decides to go on a date with him, that's agency. She's allowed to.
I don't think it's a damning point of the movie at all. I actually, he's funny because he's sleazy, is what this scene is telling you, in a way
he's a horn dog.
Yeah, he's in a way that was all too familiar and is still all too familiar. Like it
could have been much darker. It could have been, hey, you could get an A.
It's sleazy. It's gross. It is not something that needs to be harped on as a reason to not watch this movie.
Exactly.
By any means.
Then he does pursue Dana Barrett in ways that are not always wanted.
He's pushy, but
you're gonna like me. You're gonna like me. And she's like, you'll be thinking about me. She's like, I'm sure I will. It's so good.
I guess even as a kid watching this movie, I always loved her as a female character because she can handle it.
Yeah, she's a savvy New York Upper West Side gal, man. Like,
yeah,
these two,
like they feel like equals.
Yes.
Actually, she feels unequal to him because she's so hot and so.
She's way out of his
sort
league.
of uninterested. Yeah,
exactly. Way out of his league. And look, she's like what, first cello in or second chair, I think it was.
Yeah, and she's got some much more serious guy that she's interested in, that she's hanging out with. She never ever gives him a second glance if she doesn't have the supernatural situation happen in her house.
But you talk about status as well, right? Like, not only is she out of his league attractively, right, but she's definitely old money. I don't know if you're getting that, but like Upper West Side cellist in the New York City Philharmonic. Like, this is not, he's like a working class guy who saw a ghost and said, I think we could make some bucks. And she is like, I'm trying to make first chair. You know, it's like and she has that conversation with her mom. Well, you know, he's a Ghostbuster. Those guys from TV? Oh, yeah, those guys. You know? Yeah. She's kind of slumming it by hanging out with him.
I think that's right. I don't think she does ever hang out with him. If he comes in and determines there's no reason for him to be there, if she's not scared by her apartment, thinking there's still something going on, if she's satisfied by the answer, everything is fine here, I don't think they see each other again.
I agree. Yeah. Except that he might show up where she plays cello and stalk her a little bit.
He may. But I feel like he's a little too flighty for that. I feel like he'd be on to the next thing.
I mean, hopefully business would take off and they'd be busy, you know. And we do get that. They're so busy that they're not sleeping at one point in this movie.
Well, they become citywide celebrities.
Yeah.
That's the other sort of montage. The first is building the business and the second is the success of the business.
Yes. When we get a really weird scene where Dan Aykroyd receives a BJ from a ghost in his sleep or in a dream.
It's a dream? I always thought that actually happened, but then they give you the wavy "I'm dreaming" lines.
We don't need it.
We don't need it.
It's funny. I started watching this with my kid, and I was like, I watched it when I was a kid. And we got about 30 minutes in, and then it's like bedtime. We'll pick it up later. And she loved it. She was really into it. And I was like, I got to check. I don't know if I can watch this with her. And so my wife and I finished watching it. Hence, we can do the podcast about it. And I was like, I'm so glad we stopped where we did.
That is the one scene, and it's probably less than a minute long, that gives everybody pause showing this to their kids.
I also think that the scene, the whole keymaster gatekeeper thing, and the scene with her floating above the bed and stuff, and she's trying to like have sex with him, have to be a lot of explaining that I don't want to get into with my child at her age right now.
See, I feel like as a kid, all that
washes over you.
Yeah, you see people kiss on screen. It's all sort of so hokey.
Yeah.
I guess there is suggested sex because isn't his belt undone or something when you come back around to them? But I'm never going to catch that as a kid. The floating above the bed is scary. Actually, Venkman handles that scene. That's the scene that could go another direction.
Oh, because he could have jumped on, yeah.
With being super creepy.
In some ways, that's like
maybe
that might be the redemption of his sexual arc.
He
could have really taken advantage of that.
Yeah, and he is just like, he's very funny in that scene. That scene is hilarious, the way he interacts with
I
her.
don't think you can consent in this situation.
Which is his attitude, sort of like, okay, let's get you to bed.
Yes.
let's put an ice pack on your head.
Let's give you 300 milligrams of Thorazine, which some people bring up as like a damning fact on him. He brought 300 milligrams of Thorazine on a date. I think he's the guy who's just walking around with like ghost busted shit and something.
At that point, I agree.
Oh yeah, I had that on me. Because again, if he was planning that, he was going there to date rape her, he didn't need to. She was more than willing. He's a guy who's smart enough to say, I am the keymaster.
Yes, right. He knocks again. She answers the door, closes it.
Yes. Yep, that's me. It's exactly the same guy. It's so good. It's so good. I think it would be an extraordinarily bad idea. We gotta get these two together. I collect molds, spores, and funguses. What a great line. Which brings me to Annie Potts, so wonderful in the role of Janine.
Oh, my favorite moment of her is after they've had sort of their success arc, and she answers the phone. She's like, we have ghosts, we do goblins, we do this, we do that. And she's just like, it's so run of the mill to her at this point.
Yes.
It's just great.
A lot of people think I'm too intellectual.
Yeah.
She's talking to the scientist guy. I love that.
And I do love that the second movie brings Janine and Lewis together. I think that's a good pair. I like that. I think it's sweet.
Yeah, okay. I think that
wholly unnecessary.
It's another case where she is so far out of his league.
But she likes the weird nerdy stuff.
I guess so.
Like I feel like she's there because she was a believer from the beginning. And a job popped up that perfect for me. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm in.
I like that. I love that Lewis is throwing a party, but he only invites clients, so it's a tax write-off. How much fun is he having at this party where everybody is not his friend? What is the point of this party? Like,
I think he's having I think having a full room of people in his space is all he needs.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Sadly.
true.
Or did he just throw it as a way to get Dana come over?
No, because there's that other girl who really wants to dance with him. And again, way out of his league. Yeah. This is a movie about men who are really surpassed in their league. It's a real fantasy by Harold Ramis.
So, talking about things that would have been scary for your daughter, do you think the dogs would have been too much?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't think that she's going to be scared by anything in one of these movies. I mean, we watched Raiders, and I think that movie, if that didn't freak her out, then that's why we went to Ghostbusters. I was like, you're not going to be scared of Ghostbusters. Her younger sister might be. And I wouldn't let her watch this or Raiders or anything like that. And that's like a source of contention in the house right now, is that they now have the same bedtime. And so we have lost the ability to watch movies that are for the 8-year-old to some degree. And she's not a fan of that.
I feel for her. That's tough. I was the younger child.
Tough.
So
yeah. And so like to some extent, it's like, well, maybe we just got to like let the younger one see some of these older things. And
Ray kind of came to movies in college because they're the oldest of 5 and the youngest is 12 years younger. And so it was just like, I never got to watch anything. That wasn't like just run-of-the-mill television, Disney movies. Yeah. So that's a real plight of the firstborn.
Yeah. We just learned how to ride a bike.
Oh, congrats.
She killed it, man. Very proud of her. Very proud of her. She took some good spills too and jumped right back on. Her mom's not very good at riding a bike because she took some good spills apparently when she was a kid and was like, that's it, I'm done.
That's it. Yeah. I don't need this. So did you watch the second movie with her?
No.
Oh, I'm curious. I would be really curious to know if she likes it more.
I'm not real big on
doing. If it really is built for kids.
I'm not real big on doing sequels without the context of the original. Like they're going to see Star Wars someday because they're finally going to acquiesce and watch the original trilogy with me. But until they do, we will do no Star Wars.
Oh, they won't watch the original series?
It's too boring.
All right. So where were we?
We were honestly we're talking about we've decided that we can acquiesce Venkman from the internet's ire. We've decided that, you know what, people are judging him a little more harshly than they need to. We came to that conclusion.
Okay, so maybe you have the answer to this. In interviews about this movie, Dan Aykroyd speaks as if these ghosts and paranormal things are things that he truly believes in.
Yes.
To the point of saying that if his kids asked him if it was real, he couldn't lie to them because they are smart and they'll see through his lies and they'll decide for himself. Is that real? Is that a bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan Aykroyd has many times.
It's real.
If it's
not
a bit, it's an Andy Kaufman bit that he's been living his whole life.
Okay, it's more than just the marketing for this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Unless he snapped and it started out as the marketing and it's become, more than that now. But he's talked about that stuff for years. And I don't think that he believes that there are translucent puppet creatures flying around, but he definitely is into the supernatural or was for a very long period of his life.
Does he ghost? I wonder if he ghost hunts as a hobby.
He might. Who knows what Aykroyd is up to.
Okay.
And
it's real.
He came out with Crystal Head Vodka. If you're familiar with Crystal Head Vodka.
Oh, the skull. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his company, or it started out as that. And he put out this infomercial and he goes, a lot of people know about my lifelong deep obsession with the supernatural. And one of the most supernatural artifacts in the world are the Mayan crystal skulls, which is what inspired me to come out with Crystal Head Vodka.
Someone's like, that's not going to sell vodka, Dan. He's like, this is a story I want to tell.
I'm Dan Aykroyd, and I don't care. It's when I just saw some interview with people from SNL, ye old SNL, early SNL, talking about who was like the funniest, who was the most talented of their cast. And almost universally, they all said it was Dan Aykroyd. They were like, no, Dan Aykroyd was the smartest person, the funniest person. His input is behind every sketch he's not in that you like. And I wonder what happened, because he's like, what happened? Did he just kind of retire? Because like I feel like when he shows up now, he's not very funny.
Well, I think as people get older, like I don't know, maybe his sort of crazy took over the funny. Maybe he's like a little too obsessed with some of these things, and he can't not talk about it.
What a powerhouse of the 80s, right? Forget SNL, not just SNL, but, you know, Ghostbusters, Trading Places, The Great Outdoors. I mean, if it was just those three, holy shit. Oh, and Blues Brothers. How could I forget Blues Brothers and Nothing But Trouble?
Blues Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, Blues Brothers. That was the one I was reaching for. Yeah, incredible. Oh, my God. At that time. Oh, Spies Like Us. The Blues Brothers, Ghostbusters, Spies Like Us, Dragnet. I forgot about Dragnet. So good. My God, it's so good. You know, and then Coneheads, which is, yeah, I liked it when it came out. I saw it in the theater. Not a great movie.
Oh, right. Coneheads.
I was a kid, so I mean, like
well, that was an SNL skit too.
Yeah, right, exactly. As a middle schooler, though, Coneheads was pretty up my alley. And then that was it, kind of. After Coneheads, all of his credits are like, you know, character writer for Ghostbusters, like 8 times in a row. Video games, shorts, and cartoons. Ghostbusters. Comic books. Yeah, that's it. Basically, since Coneheads, he has done nothing but Ghostbusters.
He's just he's funding his ghost hunting. He's out there just funding his ghost hunting.
Ghostbusters 2000. Yeah, and Ghostbusters 2000. No, Blues Brothers 2000, which not great at all, but
he was in 2013. He was behind the Candelabra, which I need to know what the context of that is.
I don't know the role.
What character he plays.
That's interesting. I love that movie, but I don't see him. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at his writer credits. I'm an ass.
Yeah, there's more in here.
Christ, those are all movies he wrote. He is a genius. He wrote those movies, like the funniest movies of the 80s. They were all written by him. Holy shit. I didn't know that. Wow. Damn. Okay, My Girl. He tried to do the dramatic turn.
Oh, he's in My Girl. Yeah, he's the dad in that movie.
Yeah, and the same thing with like the Driving Miss Daisy. He was trying to do the dramatic turn. That's what he was trying to do. He was a fucking killer writer, and then he stopped, and I don't know why. Maybe it was just like that's a hard job. If people will pay me to act,
maybe
show
I also
up and
feel
read
like
some lines, man. That's easy.
With people's humor, so like you hear this about film critics all the time. Actually, this was a story I heard about a film critic for Psycho, that you get to a point in your career where she hated Psycho. She gave it a scathing review. And because people loved it so much, she's like, my job here is done. People have moved on.
From my perspective is moot.
Yeah, to a type of wanting a type of thing that I don't understand.
Yep.
And
I felt that way myself.
I'm gonna step back.
That is what happens when you get old.
Yeah, but there's enough old people watching stuff, and there's enough people who...
Oh, good. That's just a highlight. I was worried this was a bald spot, but it's actually just the way the light is landing on my head. Whew.
Just showed up in the middle of this episode.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
But anyway, so maybe he had a moment like that where he didn't want to adjust his comedy and it wasn't landing in the same way, and he thought, you know what, I'm gonna go looking for UFOs, which is another thing he likes.
I'll show up and read lines and look for UFOs.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not, but a theory.
And you know, he probably has a lot of points on some of those movies. He's probably got back end stuff on a lot of that stuff he wrote.
A lot of times you hear people be like, oh, what happened to her? She just disappeared off the face of the earth. I'm like, they probably have enough money that they could stop working.
Yep.
And being in movies is fun, I guess, but unless you have like a huge hunger for fame, it's also a huge pain in the ass.
Yes.
It takes you away from your home.
Yes.
You're on set all day. Like Gina Davis is a perfect example of this. It's like, if you can make it really worth my time, maybe I'll show up, but I'm not just doing it to do it.
I think that the
people
better
who do
question
that are
to ask is
fame-hungry.
what's wrong with Tom Cruise? Why is he still working?
He needs the fame. He needs
exactly.
Yes.
What is wrong with these people when any normal person? Hey, you have enough money for 100 of your lifetimes. Do you really want to go to work tomorrow? Yes. No, man. I'm on a fucking beach. I'm so gone.
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
done, baby. That's why.
And I think
I
fame isn't the only reason. I think some people truly love what they do and find purpose. And if they feel like if they stop, they'll just waste away. There's that too. But
some people desperately need the validation of others.
I think people with extremely fulfilling lives and lots of other hobbies go and take their money and do things they enjoy.
I don't even have hobbies. And I want to take my money, which I don't have, and leave and do something else.
Your hobbies would be like you bought a sailboat. Like you have hobbies.
I sold the sailboat.
Yeah, but if you didn't have to do how to drink,
I would
70
sail.
hours a week.
I would sail.
Yeah.
I was actually, oh God, I had my ass in a sunfish a few weeks ago, and I had that fucker singing on that lake, and it put a hole in my soul so bad.
That's what I'm saying. You do stuff.
God, I love sailing. It's such a bougie thing. I did not grow up sailing. I got on a sailboat, and the first time I was hooked. I had to sell that boat, and now I can't convince my wife to let me buy another one. And it doesn't matter if I convince her or not. I don't have the money for it because I am house poor. So fucking house poor. It's not even funny.
Well, and for some people, homes are a hobby. Like,
it's a hobby. I spend a lot of my fucking free time.
But if you had a ton of money, you'd still be building out your house. You'd still be making it a space that is enjoyable for you. No, you just sit in it.
Someone else would do that for me.
No, but that's what I mean. But you would have a vision for it. You would hire those people,
and then I would execute that vision and be done.
Yeah, you'd have a pool. You'd have all that stuff.
If I had that much money, I'd probably have a house somewhere else. I would just be in Key West. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
you'd still go to Disney.
Sure. Big time. I'd stay at the Polynesian. I can't afford the Polynesian. I would stay at the Polynesian.
Polynesian, the Grand Floridian.
It doesn't hold appeal, but I'd do it.
Yeah.
I'd stay there one time. My friend
you'd have to stay at all the hotels at least once.
I've been to a lot of them. My friend is booking at the beach club, and I've never been. I want to do that one.
Great pool.
The best pool. The best pool.
They've got
it's sanded.
areas of the pool. Yeah. Well, but also they've got areas where like the sand sinks and like your foot will fall into it. Very
so cool. That's
As
great.
a kid, that was like one of the best memories.
I'd like to stay there with my kids at some point.
Yeah. We quite enjoyed the campsite. And I think like if we ever owned a camper someday, we might just go spend like a month at Disney and go in parks whenever we want.
People do that around Christmas. They decorate the hell out of their campsites. And if you're ever down there in
Halloween,
Christmas,
too.
drive through the campground and get a good look at it because it's pretty cool.
When we did that road trip, we landed there pretty close to Halloween and they were same thing. They were all fun. Really decorated.
New cabins at the campground now. New cabins.
Oh.
They just did new cabins. So
that's nice. The cabins were a little too expensive for what you get, in my opinion.
If you have kids and you want separate rooms come the end of the day,
it's lovely, yes.
The cabins are not the worst deal going. But that's one of the... This is way off topic.
Yeah. I've got some issues with the campsite. There's also my last thing I'll say about it, which does not need to be said right now, but I'm going to say it because it's on my brain. You need some food close to the buses. The food is way at the back with the ferry for the Magic Kingdom.
Darling, let me tell you, we went there. We checked in for 5 days. We were staying during the pandemic. And I don't know why this character's here. And I was pushing the drive, and my family was like really pissed at me. Sometimes I feel like I'm dragging my wife and kids towards fun, and they just want me to stop. And then they get there, and they're like, "Oh, thank God
this is the best." Yeah.
Thank God you didn't let us quit. They're just like literally like we're 2 hours away from Disney World, and they're just like, "Let's just turn around. This is too far." I was like, "What is wrong with you people?" Yeah. So we get there, and everybody's hungry, and we check into the cabin, and I'm like, "We got to go find something to eat at this hotel." There was literally nothing. Nothing was open.
Because it was closed.
Because of the pandemic. And I was like, what? And so I was like, well, I know that stuff is open at the Wilderness Lodge, so we'll drive over there and we'll get food. And while I was there, I walked up to the front counter. I was like, how much would it cost for me to change my booking over here to a room and add a day? Because we're losing a day from, jumping back and forth with luggage. And they were like, $50. Like, okay, fine. Or maybe it was $150 or whatever. Yeah. And so we stayed at the Wilderness Lodge. It was much better.
I think the mindset was that like people, because there's kitchens and there's an oven, is that like people would make their own food. But like, why do you want people making food? You want people in your park spending money.
It was the 70s.
It was the 70s.
When they built it. I mean, it was a different mindset. But also, I mean, all the DVC property units have kitchens as well, which we don't use either. But breakfast use them a little bit.
Sometimes.
Anyway, enough Disney. Let's talk about Ghostbusters and the illustrious careers of Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Harold Ramis. Really,
and Sigourney Weaver.
And Sigourney Weaver. I apologize. Yeah.
Who was, Weaver. I mean, at this point, was like still coming off of Alien fame.
Yep, absolutely.
But Aliens was yet to come.
Is that true?
Between Aliens was 86, this was 84, and Alien was 79.
79, yeah. I mean, I love Sigourney, but like, has she done? She was in. I'm trying to think of other things that she was like a big deal in.
Heartbreakers.
That's a funny fucking movie.
It's a good movie
that people forget about.
People sleep on that movie. It's really good.
That's a really fun. I only saw it the one time, but I thought it was hilarious. But also, I freaking love. I mean, Gene Hackman is one of my favorite actors of all time. He is phenomenal.
Now she's in Avatar,
Alien Resurrection. She might have been one of the Galaxy Quest. I forget. Company Man, whatever that is.
I think too. Like you're in two of the biggest franchises of all time.
Yes, and that's what I'm thinking too, is that like at some point you're like, well, I've got this thing just making money for me, I'm gonna go do the stuff I feel like doing. And she was in Be Kind Rewind, which I never watched, and
Cabin in the Woods, which is probably not one of your favorites, but I love her part in that movie.
Who is she in that? I did watch it.
She pops up at the end. She's like the big reveal at the end.
I see. No, I didn't love that movie, but I did watch it.
I really like that movie.
I'm sure you do, because you like.
Here's what I like, but here's what I like about, you got the cabin in the woods, you got the kids, you're going towards the thing that you've done 100 times, a million times. Okay, how's this going to be different? How's this going to be interesting? Sometimes they are different, sometimes they aren't. This one goes so off the rails to take that concept and be like, actually, this is part of this like thing that happens every year, sort of like the purge. We have to let this demon have its sacrifice.
Yes.
And I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Joss Whedon, right? That's a Whedon.
Yeah. Anyway, not important in the context of Ghostbusters. Do you have anything else to say about Ghostbusters besides the illustrious careers of the wonderful people who made this movie?
It's such a great movie. I wonder if Bill Murray was a dick yet when they made it.
Probably.
You talk about influential movies.
But was he a dick with power? That's the question.
He probably had some power at this point. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he was closer to equal footing with all of those guys. So I wrote down government bad guys.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank God I remembered to check my notes. This is a big point in this movie. So, and intellectuals, bad guys. So first things first, right? Right off the bat, we've got these dudes who are parapsychologists doing research at Columbia University. And they're not good enough for the university. They are Animal House, right? Which makes a lot of sense. Ivan Reitman, and we got some serious representation here of the National Lampoon. And they're not good enough. They're the low class, they're the working class scientists. They're not dealing with real science, hard science, respectable science. They're getting their hands dirty fighting ghosts right from the beginning. These are working man scientists, and they are run out of college by these effete intellectuals, right? So right away, right? That's what we're getting. They go into business. They're independent businessmen. They take out a loan. They are job creators. They are going into business to try and make a living in New York City in 1984. New York City in 1984 is a hellscape, right? Like that's the general consensus. Whether or not that's true is, I think, open to debate. But the city was, bankrupt and abandoned by the federal government. It was not bailed out by Gerald Ford years prior, and was in a state where it was so famously lawless that science fiction movies like Escape from New York were coming out, and The Warriors and stuff like that in the not too distant memory. They're going to make it their own way. And then who comes to shut them down? These plucky businessmen putting the third mortgage on the house they were born in to go into business and pursue the American dream. Well, it's this dickless man from the EPA. Yes, that's right. This man has no dick. So
I heard that. He says or that's what I've been told.
It's so good. Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Has no dick. It's a good line.
And of course the EPA sticks their nose where they shouldn't into the working man's business, and they blow up the city. They screw it all up.
Shut down this machine.
They shut down this thing. They don't even understand the forces that they're messing with, and they wreck it all. And so it's been cited a lot of times as like sort of this is the Reagan American dream. Let's go into business for ourselves and damn the government, the big bad parts of the government, the three-letter agencies. Those are the bad guys. Once the cops and the mayor and all these people can get out of our way, we can do our job and get things done. And even like if you look at the contrast between it's the triumph of the everyman, right? Like Peter Venkman is grubby. He is a grubby, like he's a doctor. Actually, he has 2 doctorates, but you get the impression that like this guy, nobody handed this guy anything, right? Look at his fucking pockmarked moon surface face. He earned it, right? And then who is competing for the affections only in one scene of Miss Lofty Dana Barrett, and who does she choose? Well, that other guy in the orchestra who's complaining about the man who is just not qualified to conduct a major symphony, and she can't stand this bore, and she's like, I'm gonna go on a date with Peter Venkman, who is this weird grubby guy who's got these goofy commercials on TV, but he's kind of lovable. He's a working class guy, and I think that is a big piece of this movie. I don't know how intentional it was. I don't know. I think that it was just kind of the mindset.
I think you were making working class guys superheroes.
Yeah.
In this movie, like,
who are also scientists. Let's not get it too twisted.
They are, but like once you put those packs on their back, and they are the only known entity that can fight these ghosts. That
they
can
wear
contain
coveralls.
These ghosts.
Their uniform is coveralls.
They
like
have
they
a uniform.
Literally,
they have a car.
Like the kind of stuff that a mechanic would wear to get oily.
Well, and if you put them up against Batman is also
not a
uses...
working class hero.
No. That's what I'm saying. though. They're the anti-Batman.
Okay.
In the sense that like they also like the ways that they are the same is that they like use their inventions and science to win. They don't have any inherent superpowers. That's arguable. Batman's super strong, but he's not Superman. He doesn't fly.
Right.
I'm gonna shift it. It's the working class Batman.
I'm gonna take him. I like the instinct. I like the energy.
All right,
I'm gonna say that.
Take us home,
I'm
Greg.
actually gonna say, if we're gonna compare him to a comic book character, there's Spider-Man. Spider-Man does have
your neighborhood.
Spider-Man is poor. He has to have a job the whole time he's Spider-Manning. And hold on, things you may not know about Spider-Man. Yes, he has superpowers. It could be argued that we have super brains over here, but his webs, that's an invention. That's a machine that he made up.
Sometimes.
In the comics.
But he's super strong. Also,
he's super strong. He's like he's insanely strong.
Yeah, but also Spider-Man's a kid. Like, I don't know. I'm sticking with my Batman analogy.
He's a grown-up. He's a kid at the very beginning of the comics, but
yeah, sure, but he grows up. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that comes up in the comics, is that like people underestimate how crazy strong Spider-Man is. And, like, there's this whole arc where the Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, steals his body, and he goes to kill somebody. He punches somebody, and he like detonates his head, turns it into mist or something like that. And he realizes like, oh my God, all the years I've been fighting Spider-Man, he's been holding back as hard as he can to not murder me.
Yeah. But without their tools and equipment, these guys are just guys. And Batman is a very rich guy, but
yes. I'll acquiesce. He's the Batman.
He's the working man's Batman.
He's the working Batman's. Even in the sequel,
I'm sure people are screaming better analogies.
I'm sure too. I'm sure. Yeah. Somebody's gonna be like, actually, there's Swamp Thing, and here's why.
And please tell us. I want to know.
Keep it in Alan Moore territory. Maybe they're Rorschach or something. They might be Rorschach, actually.
I'm not familiar with Rorschach.
He's definitely not a nice character. He's kind of the villain of The Watchmen. He's not the villain, but he is an unsavory character. So, but he's a working character. No, I was going to say is that even in the sequel, there's that scene where they have to dig a hole. And they just act like they don't need permits. Like, you're going to bust our balls for permits over here. Oh, we got orders from up high. We got to dig this fucking hole over here. And they, there is a whole element of that in this.
They can speak that language. Well, then you bring in Winston.
I feel bad for I lament that we ignore Winston in much of this conversation.
But you bring him in, who truly, she asks him, you have to believe in blah, blah, blah. And he's like, is there a paycheck?
Exactly.
That's all I care about.
Yeah. It's also, he's supposed to be a Marine who just got out. I don't know if that comes up in the final version of the movie. Hey, here's a fun thing. There were lawsuits about this movie. They wanted to get, was it Huey Lewis? I forget who it was. They wanted, I think it was Huey Lewis to do the theme song, and he wouldn't do it. And so they hired this guy, Ray Parker, to do it. And then there was a lawsuit. They're like, hey, you hired a guy to write my song. Like, that is my sound. And I think that whoever it was won. Yeah, Huey Lewis was approached because, but he was already working on Back to the Future. And they used a Huey Lewis song, I Want a New Drug, to cut the montage. And then Ray Parker wrote his song Ghostbusters to follow I Want a New Drug so that it would work for the montage. Huey Lewis sued Ray Parker Jr. and Columbia Pictures for copyright infringement. Columbia did settle out of court with Huey Lewis signing a confidentiality agreement in exchange for undisclosed, presumably mammoth sum of money. This meant that the parties were not allowed to talk about the settlement. So there it is. Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Whoop.
All right, we got to wrap this up because if we're going to do more stuff today.
And I got a phone call I got to get back to. You want to take us out? I don't know. What do we do? How do we end an episode? Normally we end an episode when Greg's talked himself into a corner and I have to uncomfortably back away from my position. I don't feel like we have to do that today. That's fun.
Ghostbusters, I think pretty universally loved movie. If you don't like it, you're wrong.
Might be also called Govbusters.
Govbusters.
Because they bust the government.
There you go. That's it. We're done. That's it.
Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hugely influential, amazing comedy. Good night. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Midnight Local.